Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 41 of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is September 30th, 2019. Last time we started discussing part 5 of Oathbringer, focusing mainly on what was going on with Dalinar, but in this episode we are really going to sink our teeth into the Battle of Thaylen Field, looking at what was happening in the other parts of the battlefield. I'm Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my combative co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Not welcome. We're combative.
Oh no, Jordan actually is taking it to heart. I should have known better. For those of you who do listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube after the fact, we do want to remind you that it's possible for our listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. We record episodes of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So please join us, take an active part in the discussion, talk to the peanut gallery behind our backs, well, right in front of our faces, but, we get distracted talking about awesome books, so... we'll only find out about it after the fact. So, maybe I've made a mistake in letting people know about that. Anyway, we do want to thank our patrons. The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. Our show will continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. You can pledge, even $1 or $2 per episode. That really helps us out as we're working to improve the show. Patrons will get immediate access to our Discord channel, where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. It is a great community with a lot of great discussions, and you will also get early access to bonus episodes, which we've actually got one kind of in the making. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to be cool, so keep an eye out for that. You'll also get exclusive access to other bonus content and even automatic entry into some of our giveaways. So, one other thing that is kind of exciting, the hard copy version of White Sand Volume 3 comes out tomorrow. So if you're listening to the recording, it comes out yesterday.
I won't believe it until I see it.
Well, that Amazon said it's on its way, so I should have mine.
The digital version of it actually came out within the past couple weeks, and I have read it, and I can honestly say it is noticeably better than the other two. I will not give spoilers, but both in the graphical layout and storytelling aspects, it feels like it's polished more, and it was done by a more experienced graphic artist, in my opinion.
Well, I would hope so with how many delays there were.
So... hey, I don't even know why there were delays.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it happens, but it's just kind of
frustrating. To make the good things happen.
But that said, it's worth checking out. And, I mean, like, it's still, in my opinion, not the best thing that Brandon's done by any means, but it's a lot more enjoyable. And there's some interesting little reveals. So, yeah.
So yes.
So
are you waiting for the cricket, Jordan?
Look, I don't summon him. He just appears.
Anyway. So, guys, I feel like, honestly, nothing really happens in this part, so why don't we just skip it, call it a night?
I want to start with one thing in particular. We didn't cover Seth descending from the sky to help lift, splitting one of the what are they called? Thunderclass.
Thunderclass.
Oh, that's right, that's Thunderclass.
Splitting it in half, absorbing it into a sword.
Okay, we've got some lead up to that. It's an amazing climactic moment, but
it is an amazing climactic moment, but then that happened, and then it didn't matter anymore, because then I'm just like, man, I need to see more of this.
Yeah. Somebody on Reddit posted they're working on like a computer animation of this scene. And
the whole
it was just the Zeth comes down, cleaves the Thunderclast in two, and lands.
They're
going to
take a long time if it's the whole thing.
No, it's just like that shot. And it was just like, okay, it was one of those, he's practicing, and I was like, that is one heck of a choice on something to practice on, but it looks pretty cool, so.
But the lead up is good with him debating up in the sky whether or not what he's going to swear by.
Yeah, so let's, because he's having a chat with Nail, and Nail has essentially said, the Skybreakers are going with Odium. Or not with Odium, but with the listeners.
Yeah, the listeners.
Specifically.
They feel that by right of being, basically right of dibs, that they have...
they were the natives, it's
they
like
have the claim.
This was their planet. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it's just a really very interesting conversation because it's so clinical.
Well, and it's mostly with himself until finally Nightblood sort of butts in and points out how stupid this is. And he's like, didn't you follow a rock for 1,000 years?
It's like, you fought the rock for like ever. It was a rock.
No, it wasn't. He's like, and then he realizes, had no choice. But then again, it had always been just a rock. And I think that's the hardest thing for Zeth, who has spent so much time absolving himself of decision-making and handing it to others, that for him to finally have his own fate and his own judgment in his hands is terrifying.
Well, not only to have it in his own hands, but to have had it in his own hands for those years.
Yeah.
And again, that's sort of the overarching theme of this book, particularly this battle, is taking responsibility for your own actions.
Yeah, I hadn't realized that when I was reading through it, but as we're talking about it now, I'm like, yeah, everybody pretty much has that realization or has had that realization before it.
I mean, like, even Shallan, she, the block she puts up is she just essentially becomes a different person. And, it's just like, I'm going to step back and let this personality take charge. I don't want to, and, even she has to kind of come to that realization that you are in charge of what you do and you have responsible for the consequences of it. And for some of them, that is a very, very traumatic realization.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I like the interaction between her and Zeth, even though they never talk. Zeth seeing all those images, and he's like, these are the shadows that, that are always crying for justice from him. It's like, oh, this is good. We just have a nice basket of crazies trying to save the world. This is healthy.
Yeah, but the thing is, what you did is you took that, bag of cats, and then you tossed it into the middle of battle just to watch what happens.
Kind of did.
And hilarity ensues.
But so I love when Zeth one of Brandon's maybe best written line just in this entire book is when Zeth starts going to town with Nightblood, and it's like men kept coming at them as if they thirsted for death. It was a drink that Zeth served all too well. I just remember listening to that line, and I'm just like, oh, it's so cool.
I don't know. Saying that that's the coolest line in the whole book, though, there's a lot of contenders for that one.
It's the most poetic line. Like, Brandon doesn't tend to get too purple with his prose. But that one just was so good. I loved it.
Well, and the thing is, Zeth is kind of the only character whose viewpoint that would work with. Because he is that sort of melodramatic.
Yeah.
But he's not putting on a front. That's just sort of who he is, and where he lives in his head is just everything is melodramatic.
I mean, he dresses in all white. Like, he lives his life as a metaphor for things.
To be fair, the first time he wore white, I think he was ordered to.
Yeah, he was ordered by the Parshendi. He mentions that in his intro, but
wear white,
he sticks with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even after he doesn't have to be the assassin in white anymore. He could become the assassin in, dark beige if he so desired, but he's sticking with it.
I don't know. I kind of would love to see the assassin in Mauve. It sounds like a song. It's like
Is that
Rhapsody
okay?
in Blue.
Is it Mauve or is it Mauve? Because this whole
I thought it
timber
was
thing
Mauve.
is really.
I
throwing
believe
me
it
off.
actually is Mauve.
Oh,
but
don't tell me I'm saying something else wrong.
Again, I could be wrong.
Oh,
I don't like this.
we're all like, we gotta type it in and Google it. 'cause
All these
we can't say
stupid
the word
French
wrong.
and music words are ruining everything.
It's an M, an O, a little U thing, and a V. So I guess is it Mauve? Have I been saying it wrong?
Mauve. Mauve.
Oh, French.
I'm
How
saying
I
Mauve
shake
because
my
I'm an American.
It's Mauve. It's
I'm from Texas.
French.
We named the town Amarillo. Just don't worry about it. Anyway,
things we learn
Yeah.
that are totally not
but
related.
okay, I love.
I
when,
feel like I've discovered a new role for myself as the one who just keeps on correcting everybody's mispronunciation.
No, you said that wrong. You said it wrong.
I don't like it. But the whole point is when he descends, saving Lift of all people, who A is finding out she's not as awesome as she thought she was.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
when
she
suddenly
sees
she
someone
sees
who
somebody
is
a
way
lot better.
And then
Yeah. And then he comes down, and what's her response?
well,
Like,
first,
it's basically just sort of the whole, well, that was a neat trick.
well, and at first she's like, see, this, like, she goes to abandon him because she's like, I don't want to be anywhere near there. But she's Lift, so she goes back and ends up sharing his burden after the ice skater fused.
Takes
Like,
away
runs
the-
off with his
Sheath.
his sheath, which it's like that was quick thinking on her part.
Yep.
I think something told her that though. I think one of the Spren did.
It's
That's
very
very possible.
possible.
But
Then-
well, because Lift has just been skating around on her knees the whole time, and
And she
You know,
does
it's-
try and stand up, but then she falls
tries,
down
but
still.
she hasn't had any practice at this.
Well, and it's like even like when she's on her knees, she talks about how she slaps her hands on the ground. Like she doesn't even talk about like anything graceful. Everything sounds well, and
It's very Lift.
yeah. Well, and you go back to Nails talking about how in Edge Dancer how she's an affront to her order. Like they're graceful things, and here she is scooting around on her knees.
Slapping her hands, just doing whatever, being a kid.
The thing, I have a suspicion, especially because, there's a very, very good chance that Lift is going to survive until the back half of the series. And we're going to see her in 10 and 15 years, and I think that's when we really are going to see a very, very graceful edge dancer, because it's the whole concept of the ugly duckling, the awkward
Tween.
adolescent growing up to be this very, very elegant. And I think we're going to see a much more polished Lift in 6 through 10 or whenever,
I think if nothing else, having seen the Fuse do that would probably make her pretty jealous of the fact that they can do it and she can't, and so it's going to make her practice it actually and try harder.
She's so utilitarian about everything she does. She just keeps doing it this way because it works. And so she's not trying to figure out any advanced techniques with it because it works for what she's trying to do right now. And it's as she starts throwing herself into more of these situations, she's going to start probably becoming a little more technical.
And having
Even
to
though
exert
she
herself a
doesn't
little bit
want
more.
to.
Well, and the other thing is we've seen that she is growing more than she thought she was supposed to. And so she is maturing. And I think over time we'll just see the natural results of her maturing. Either that or Brandon's cackling to himself as he, realizes that people are going to think this. And dang it, Brandon, stop playing us.
I don't know. But I love her, putting her hands on him to try and heal him. And then Nightblood starts to eat her, and then like after it's all done, she's just like, the sword, it talks.
You tried to eat me.
And he's like, I wouldn't do that. Besides, if I did, it would only be because I was really hungry. And Lift's like, well, I guess I can't fault him for that.
It's like, yeah, that seems justified.
Yep. And then of course we have Zeth and Lift running around the battlefield together trying to get a hold of the King's Drop. And honestly, it's one of my favorite buddy cop pairings ever. Because Zeth is nothing but technical. and Lift is nothing but emotional.
Well, and he's almost as literal as Pattern at times. Where she comes up with her whole plan to trick. She's like, it's not about, having the thing. It's about wanting the thing, or whatever it is. It's not about the thing, it's about having the thing.
It's about having the thing and wanting to have the thing.
He's like, these words are so wise.
He's like, oh, wow, I never thought about it that way.
It's like, truly, you are a master of intellect.
Well, then she gets to Shallan, who's in the middle of going through a horrible emotional thing as she's watching all her drawings come in and out of existence. And she's like, hey, could you stop hugging yourself for a minute? I need you to do something.
I need a favor. I need you to do something. And I love it that they cut it so you don't know what the plan is until it's executed.
Yeah. Oh, man. This is going to be a very, very interesting dynamic when book 4 comes out, because suddenly we have all these people hanging out together in the same place, no longer in the thrill of battle, but just sort of okay, now how do we exist together?
Yeah, I don't know if is Lift going to be there for sure though or not.
I think she will.
I think at this point she's going to stick around at least for a bit. Plus, we know that no, they got mad for a while. What's up with the Azish now? Where do they stand?
They're coming back.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were talking, I think.
Okay.
But they hadn't agreed to it yet.
Yeah, but
the thing is, I can see that being the eventuality. So, and so the Oath Gate at least will be open, so she could pop in and out as necessary.
As needed, yeah, because she can get herself, because she has Wendell.
Well, and it also just strikes me, Brandon has spent so much time giving her scenes with Dalinar and the Seths and Nightblood specifically, that I feel like if he stopped, that it would feel like he sort of abandoned something that he was building towards. I'm not exactly sure what he's building towards with that, but I feel like he's building towards something with those relationships.
You know what dynamic I'm actually really excited to see? When I'll wait until the train finishes.
I swear, up until like a month ago, they did not blow their horn. Now I swear they're waiting for the podcast.
I'm betting that there's a new engineer or anything. Anyway, our listeners really probably don't care about that. No, the dynamic I'm waiting for is Lift and Navani. Because I think that is... Well, because remember, this is the mother of Yesna K'Lin. Mm-hmm. And if anybody can handle Lift, it's Navani.
It's a different kind of difficult child, but yeah, they both would be very difficult children.
Well, I don't see Yesna really trying to handle anything with Lift. I'm pretty sure Yesna will be kind of dismissive of her.
And she's going to be busy.
I don't know that she'll be dismissive of her.
When I say dismissive...
She is the only edge dancer we have.
When I say dismissive, I mean just like she doesn't quite matter right now. Like, because Yesna will have bigger things. She's not queen.
She's probably not going to mother her.
I see it more along the lines of Lift will do something weird and Yesna will act like it didn't even happen. I don't know that she'll dismiss Lift, but I think she'll dismiss Lift's eccentricities.
Yeah,
I could see Navani taking interest in her.
I can see Navani absolutely just... I can see Lift trying to basically be the street urchin she is, and Navani just sort of rolling over it. Just like letting that completely roll over her and just loving her.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's funny. I was thinking about earlier when you were saying dynamics and stuff, and I realized that it almost feels like Szeth and Lift are brother and sister, like older brother who's dealt with a lot more, and then you have Dalinar who's sort of the father figure, and then you just said Navani, and so I'm like, well, it's gonna be a really weird little mini family thing with Lift and Szeth is the sort. Anyway, yeah.
And
it worked in my head.
We have seen Dalinar take a bit of a paternal role towards Gox in the visions.
Yeah. Well, and also remember, Navani just lost her son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so...
And she has really... I mean, you don't see her having time to process it because there's too much going on.
But I can see that also being sort of a healing thing for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives Navani someone to work with, and was it in Edge Dancer? I think it was that Lift talked about mothers.
Yes, it was a very short thing. It was, I think, when she was talking about the orphanage.
And I absolutely see Navani just stepping into that role. Mm-hmm. And she's the kind of person who's so used to getting her way that she's not going to bully Lift in any way, but she's just going to step forward, assuming that Lift will follow along, and it's, and just sort of, because of it, Lift will kind of end up not falling into line because she's still Lift, but also sort of being, growing because of it, and just sort of.
Well, it's one of the things that we see in Edge Dancer with Lift is how she runs from responsibility. She doesn't like people expecting things from her. And part of her whole story arc in Edge Dancer is her dealing with her own cognitive dissonance of the fact that she has sworn an oath to remember those, who have been forgotten, but at the same time avoiding responsibility. And so for her, I think her arc is going to be, starting to accept that she has resposibilities.
Right.
Which is a big part of growing up in general, is that having responsibilities and accepting them and dealing with them.
There's also a possibility, one of the most recent oath that Lift has taken is I will remember. Is that the one, I will remember those who have been forgotten, or is that the first one?
Oh, goodness.
The second one is that I will listen to those who have been ignored.
That's right.
So, but the first one is I will remember those who have been forgotten. Honestly, with everything that's going on as it is, I can see Elhokar sort of fitting into that role. Like, yes, he was the king. Yes, he was killed. But Dalinar's been the king in all but name for years. And I can see a lot of people just sort of essentially forgetting Elhokar. Not like forgetting that he existed, but just sort of.
He was there, but he was a footnote.
Exactly.
Kind of.
And I can absolutely see Lift, him being another one that Lift remembers for.
Speaking of Elhokar, the scene where Adolin and Navani have a moment, and Navani asks Adolin, and it's like, Elhokar? And it starts hitting Adolin like, I'm sorry, we failed him, we failed Kholinar. And Adolin having that moment of, did I ever really even mourn him? Like, I haven't even really had the chance. And then he, they're in the middle of a battlefield. And he's just, but he takes a moment to mourn, to help a grieving mother.
Which again, if
it's his aunt,
predictions
too.
are right, well, and again, if predictions are right, and Adolin does end up becoming some form of Edge Dancer, he takes that moment. And so,
it was a powerful moment. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I also loved Adolin, like, because Dalinar gives everyone orders except for Adolin, which for Adolin's that's a weird moment. Adolin's not used to being forgotten.
He's getting more used to it. You can tell that he's realizing that he's not as powerful in some regards, and there's moments where he tries to go and deal with the Thunderclast.
But I love that he just like,
he knows that he doesn't have the armor or
these guys could
anything.
use a weapon designed to take down something like that.
A Thunderclast.
And he's like, this can do that. I'm gonna go help. And then he ends up having to hand it Maya off to the other guy. I can't remember his name now.
I don't.
But the guy who has the native, is he Thalen? Yeah,
he was Thalen.
Thalen. And
his armor had eyebrows.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, I just remember he says that. I'm like, I love that. That's awesome.
Oh man.
But
so anyway,
I love him, like, as he's talking to the sword. He's like, "You want to fight, don't you?" And he's just, and it's such a neat little moment, because he's just, all he can get really are impressions. But
right.
It's interesting because it's so different from everyone else with whatever their metaphysical thing is.
Oh yeah, no. I am very interested to see how Adolin's story pans out, because there's some really cool stuff coming in there.
Did we cover Yesna and Renarin at all?
Well, not yet, but I want to go back. I want to finish up with Szeth and Lift first.
Okay.
Because their whole task is they're going after the King's Drop.
Yep.
And they play the most intense game of keep away that I've ever read about. And it's just, again, just this battle of three characters who are very, very graceful in each in their own way. Like even Lift, who's a lot more blunt in her use of it, she has this ability, like the raw talent of this gracefulness, and just it's a really, really cool visual. You know, Brandon writes all sorts of different types of combat, and the Edge Dancer Skybreaker fight is just an interesting play.
Finally, I love that Zeth rope-a-dopes her into thinking that, oh, you're so graceful, oh, you're doing this whole thing, and then he just waits, and then he strikes, showing that, nope, I knew I was amazing the entire time.
I was just
and then just lashes her up into the air.
I am no left-handed.
But I like that that's Seth's move. It's the same thing he tried to kill Dalinar with. Just lash you straight up. Have fun with all your not friction.
It's very effective.
It turns out blunt force trauma is amazing.
And gravity is not always your friend.
No,
Yeah,
gravity is
true.
a cruel and heartless bee.
Oh, what was it? I was thinking there was something. But yeah, it's just I love, and then after, of course, after the battle's over, you've got Nightblood who's just like completely just like he's got Thanksgiving sleep syndrome essentially.
Oh yeah,
you know? And he's just like, did we destroy a lot of evil? He's like, yes,
awful.
yes, we did. And it's just the whole way that Brandon describes it is like this sleepy mumbling of just like, wow.
The other thing
he uses the word sated, and I'm like, yep, that I think he uses the word sated. At least that's what comes to mind.
The other one I loved was when he notices Lift for the first time, like chasing after her, and he's like, "Wow, what an impressive string of curses! Do you think she knows what all of them mean? If so, do you think she would tell me?"
Tell me?
Do you think she'd tell me?
Yeah, no, Nightblood. Well, and that's the other thing is that Lift does have a conversation with Nightblood, which not everybody's able to do.
That's after she's trying to heal him, right?
Yeah.
Heal Zeth. And she's not touching Nightblood or Zeth when that happens, right?
No, he seems to be able to communicate to her as
I'm figuring-
similar to how he did Vivina.
Well, and Brandon has said the way that Nightblood speaks, because somebody brought it up how Ruin, is only able to speak to people when they're hemologically pierced. And like, so how come this sword is able to do something that even a shard can't do? And Brandon said, well, it's more it has to do with bonding with somebody. And so there is some sort of bond, no matter how, tentative or, it's not necessarily like a nail bond or anything, but there is some sort of bond now between Lift and Nightblood.
I mean, he drank of her investiture, so
right.
I
figure that would be when that would happen.
And I think that is the bond, is when he drinks from you, essentially.
Because I think he did drink from Vivenna, right?
Well, remember when she grabbed him that one time and she felt ill.
Yeah, so he did. So that would fit, but it still follows the pattern there. So
I don't know exactly how that all works, but it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
I really want to talk Yasna and Renarin.
Okay, let's go to Yasna and Renarin, because this is some of the coolest work that I have.
Yeah.
First of all, when we finally get to see how Renarin sees the future, and it's stained glass images, and Bill showed me this.
Oh, can I talk about this?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so first off, I don't know if any of y'all know, there is a card game. It's called Call to Adventure, and it was kickstarted, and there was supposed to be a Stormlight module. It's supposed to have different modules that you can sort of plug in with it. But they ended up canceling the Stormlight module, and instead they're releasing just a completely separate version of the game based around the Stormlight Archive. The art is absolutely stunning, and Brandon posted a picture. I think it was Brandon, may have been Isaac or somebody, I believe, on Team Dragonsteel posted, and it was the image from the card was this scene that Renarin saw of where he saw Dalinar becoming Odian's champion and Yasna killing himself. And it's just a series of stained glass windows, and it's absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, it just looks so good. Anyway, Jordan, go on.
Oh, so first of all, just seeing that, like, that's such a unique concept of how to see the future with this stained glass iconography that, you know, hopefully one day Vin somehow shatters through. But the so it's amazing, and how despondent he is, where he's willing to let Yesna kill him because he doesn't want to see his father become the Bane of Roshar.
Well, that, and he also has seen her killing him in his vision.
Yeah, it was one of the ones.
And so he's fully accepted that this is going to happen.
You don't know exactly when he knew that would happen, so he's probably had time to process it and just accept that.
And so Yesna's going through, you know, she realizes there's something wrong with Gliss. And so she comes in and she sees Renarin and she's ready to kill him. And then he looks at her and he nods. And Yasna just immediately is taken back, and she sees the little boy that, you know, she basically was the big sister to, that she took care of, you know, because he was frail when he was little.
Yeah.
You know, but before he bonded Gliss, he was this just weakling who the only way that they would let him, one of the reasons that Dalinar wanted Shardplate for him was because it would help him get around. And, you know, so it's just this little boy that she's known all of his life and taken care of. And he looks at her and he nods because he seems to think his sacrifice is necessary.
Or at least inevitable.
Right. But Yesna just says no. And instead she embraces him.
Well,
I figure she probably was one of the few friends he had as a kid too, because being Blackthorn's son, and then he probably was terribly isolated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, heck, even Dalinar for most of his life thought of him as
the other boy,
the other
other
one.
son.
Yeah.
That would hurt.
Oh yeah.
Although again, that flashback with Dalinar when Renarin brings him the bottle of wine.
I know.
And it's just the most pure moment. And Dalinar thinks that Evie had been telling them horrible, horrible things about their father. And he says, "What did she tell you?" And she says, "Our father, the greatest man in Roshar, the only one with," and it's just like, and it just rips him apart inside because he realizes he's started to resent his children. And they have just come to him with absolutely nothing but love and respect. And I feel like that's a big turning point for him.
Yeah. And I love that the moment that, you know, she doesn't kill him, he's like, whoa, 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 I can be wrong. And so,
which means lots of things aren't necessarily going to happen.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, he's never even considered, because everything he's seen to this point has come true. And it just changes everything. It's a complete perspective shift for him.
Yeah, and I love, because the rest of the battle, we don't see much of Yesna's perspective. But what
we do have like get, one little, a couple little bits, but not much. Go ahead.
Where she just sees a hole, because she was given the task, you know, plug the hole in the wall, and she's like, a lot of this investiture out here, be a shame if
and that's the thing waste. That's the thing is, like, she wasn't given the instruction. Adolin was saying, "Hey, everybody, we got to defend this gap now," and she's just like, "Well, how about this? This is easier." And then Adolin's just sort of like,
I don't know if they're in earshot of each other.
Yeah, I don't think they are.
I didn't think they were.
I think she hears him.
Well, no, because Dalinar gave her that task to
defend the gap in some way or something like that. I don't remember the exact wording, but Adolin is like, well, we need to defend it, and he looks over and Yas is doing that, and he's like, okay.
Well, and she doesn't just block it. She makes a metal wall.
Yeah, it's not just
is it bronze or something?
It was
It's
bronze. She doesn't just patch it up. She could have done stone, but she's
it's the cover. Is what she does.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's all the bronze. Yeah.
And Yesna, like Kaladin and Seth, they both have a flair for the dramatic, but they have a flair for the dramatic because that's kind of who they are. Yesna has a flair for the theatrical. She understands
style.
Performance and style. Yes, style. And it's like, well, I have basically infinite investiture. Boom, bronze. They will call this the Yesna patch or something.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
It's just one of those moments you're just like, man, she's just so much cooler than everyone else.
Well, and it's not just that, like, because she doesn't just patch the wall. She gets in fights and she just dominates everyone who comes close.
It was fun to read Adolin's scene where he's worried about her and he's like about to go down an alleyway or something that she's in. And he's like, oh no, I gotta help it. Yeah, I gotta help her. And he looks over and she just like turns a bunch of people to smoke and he's like, she's good.
Well, then, like, one point
I don't need to worry about that.
She like shoves a guy, turns him into crystal, into another guy, and like it catches.
The other guy turns into crystal too.
And it's just, I don't know what she's fully capable of, but when she has unlimited resources, she is by far the most terrifying person.
And I think her and what is her guy's name? Ivory.
Yes.
They talk about the fact that it's all the realms are close, and so it's a lot easier to do it too. Because she comments on, I think it's either smoke or something like that, like changing people to smoke. That she's like, it doesn't take as much persuasion. It's just like a tap compared to actually having to do the work.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean,
like,
if you realize you have that ability, that's a scary prospect.
Oh, but it's so cool. Well, especially because we get a lot of points of view of, like, I think it's from Navani's perspective, where Yesna is like giving orders, and meanwhile that's like, you know, Yesna, look out, and she just like sidesteps and then like, you know, makes a wall of pitch. Guy goes through it, and then just a single spark, because cool guys don't look at explosions. It just immolates this fuse like it's nothing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, holy cow, soul casting is way overpowered.
Well, and it's balancing is the fact that it takes so much stormlight, but because of Dalinar, what he did, it's just, and the fact that all the realms are there, she's just like, well, let's do this.
Yeah, it's just.
Meanwhile, Renarin goes on. He Wolverine tanks an entire getting squished by a thunderclass.
He just pops up like it doesn't even hurt him, and then what is it?
He eats a stone like daisies.
Like daisies.
What is it? I think it's Adolin who's watching him murder something. He sees Renarin just like go towards like the thunderclass or something like that, and it looks scared, or something else does, and they're like, and it makes you wonder what do Truth Watchers have that scare them so badly versus other Radiants.
Well, they have
much what they can do.
They remember Renarin was able to. What's the other ability?
They have illumination
because they have Well, because like, is it illumination?
It's illumination and regrowth.
So what was it that he did in the library then, where he like touches the wall and things pop out?
That was due to the Glisk could sense.
No, it's recognizing patterns and things, because he keeps talking about how Urithiru is Fabrial.
Right.
Well, altogether, it's not just little Fabrials here and there. The whole thing is a Fabrial.
It's also worth noting that we don't quite know what he is because of his strange bond with Glisk. So there could be other stuff going on.
But yeah, yeah. Okay, so we were talking about Navani a bit. Her story, she's off with Queen Finn and
the king guy.
Kamakal.
Meanwhile, back with the normal people.
Yep. We're trapped in the wall.
I didn't say ordinary. I just said normal.
I was going to say, because that's the thing is Navani and Finn, neither of them are quite normal. Because Navani is just.
Well, because Navani invented a taser.
I know, I love that. She just turned around the pain reel on them and just like tasered them. Yeah, taser's a good word for it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just it removes pain. Well, what happens if I use it backwards? Oh, dear.
So it strikes me that she can use it sort of in the same way it feels like Farukamist uses a metal mine.
Sort of.
And it makes me wonder, we don't know how the discs work in Era 2, and there's something weird going on, and I'm wondering if the discs are...
What do you mean?
So
we sort of know how they work,
but we don't know the full mechanisms. There's still some unknowns, the exact nature of it, and it makes me wonder if whoever made the discs in Era 2, because Era 2's shortly before this.
Era 2 is going to fall somewhere in between the first 5 and the last 5.
Okay. It makes me wonder, it's around this time. It makes me wonder if some world hopper who knows about Fabrial technology has somehow influenced these ferrochemical devices. I don't know. It just...
I'd say the opposite is more likely true.
Or, yeah, sorry. I said that backwards.
There's
just because the medallions have been around for a while, and
there
Fabrial technology is a relatively recent.
There were Fabrials before?
Yes,
though.
there were.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if the tech is similar, then it's possible they got it from the earlier Fabrial version.
Well, because we do know Roshar has inspired stuff before, because that was the whole inspiration behind Nightblood.
That's true.
And so it's one of those things. I don't know if there's anything to that. It's just, it sort of struck me that it did act a lot like a metal mind.
So listeners, if you go to one of Sanderson's readings, ask that question.
That'd be a good word of Brandon.
Yeah, and we're talking about you, the listener, not the people, the listeners.
Yeah, you don't want to call them that, because the listeners are right now, they're
kind of in
following
hiding.
Odium.
Well, no, are they? Because it's
no, the singers are the
singers, because the listeners are the group that is mostly wiped out because they got turned into the fused and
so many
else.
different.
They go
factions.
through so many names.
That's so hard. Names.
Anyway, but yeah, so Navani, hyper competent, working with Finn, lots of fun.
Yeah, and they have to fight the Sadeas soldiers and everything else. So,
All right, now let's move on to two more of the viewpoint characters who are on the field, because that's one thing that is just so cool about this is all 10 of our viewpoint characters are in this battle. And so we've got Ash and Taln. Now this is a heartbreaking moment.
Oh, it was so rough.
Where we see Ash when she finds Taln, and he's just doing his catatonic mantra.
His monologue, yeah.
Reminds you a lot of the Elantrians.
It reminds you a lot of the Elantrians, the Hoed.
Yeah.
And she just sees him, and it breaks her heart. Now, are Ash and Taln romantically involved? It sounds like that's sort of the vibe that I got, but I
don't know if that's confirmed. I know that the shards that came to Roshar were romantically involved.
Well,
honor and cultivation, but I don't know if the two.
But that's kind of the vibe that I got from that conversation.
I got that vibe too, but I also
even if they were
romance books, then I probably
it's been so long that
it's been so long. But what I'm saying is, Ash is because they abandoned him for thousands of years. That's gonna leave a mark on you.
Give you such a crick in the neck.
I mean, to the point where she is destroying all evidence that she existed. I don't know if it's just a matter of self-loathing or a matter of anger that she's being deified when she feels that she's been, she doesn't deserve it.
I always thought it was just her version of insanity from being reincarnated and dying so many times, but I didn't.
The fact that she has an itch that she, even though she knows Talon is near, she still has to scratch that thing out.
Oh, it's almost an OCD type of thing where it's just
tick,
the tick that's the compulsion is destroying every
evidence of her,
every evidence of herself. But when Taln gets his moment of lucidity, and he asks how long it's been,
And
she says it's, what was it, 3,000 years?
4,000, I thought.
4,000.
I think it's 4,000.
And, she's just expecting him to be furious at them for abandoning him. And his response is, oh, what a gift. How amazing. You were able to
give them time.
To give them time to recover. Because at that point, the Desolations were coming less than a year apart, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really short periods of time. I don't remember exactly.
It kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and so there was never any sort of time to recover from it, and so it just kept getting worse and worse. And again, Taln was the one who never broke again, it's been 4,000 years, and he was by himself. The others, that was part of the Oath Pact, is that they were able to share the suffering amongst themselves. Taln is hardcore.
Oh, yeah. And
because he was taking 10 people's worth of torture for 4,000 years when everybody else was breaking after, hundreds and then decades and then years and then months, weeks, days. And he just,
Well, I find it interesting that it disturbs her more that he's so understanding.
Well, and it's just part of I don't deserve this forgiveness. Because she's, again, for 4,000 years, she has been living with this.
Yep.
And so it's
and walking around and knowing that he's still suffering, and she is part of the reason why he's suffering. And
then she finally finds him and is ready for him to go off on her, and instead he forgives her, and it's even more unbearable.
And then he goes back to his loop too, you know, so she's reminded that he forgives her, but he's still broken in his own way right now. That
is just one of the hardest scenes.
And it's not even that long of a scene, but it's poignant.
It sticks with you.
How about Kaladin?
Oh,
okay, let's talk
I like
about
my
Kaladin.
note there. It was like worst multitasking job ever. Because my goodness, he's just like here, there, this other place, deal with all these.
He's basically playing Five Nights at Freddy's for keeps.
Yeah.
As he's having to juggle everything.
Yeah.
Oh, and in the meantime, here's the guy who's responsible for everything that's wrong in your life.
Turning into a literal monster there. Yeah. That's
okay. I do love that Dalinar's just like, what do you got for me, sir? And he's like, I need you to protect me. I think you and him have a score to settle. And just Kaladin sort of looks, and it's just like, yes, I do.
This is one thing I'm very happy to do. Yep.
But man, just his whole speech to him, just 10 spears go to battle, 9 break. Did the war forge, that one spear? No. The war just showed which one wouldn't break.
Yeah, because Amram tries to take credit for, I made you, and it's like, no.
Yeah, Kaladin basically gives him the, I am not who I am because of you. I am who I am in spite of you.
Yep.
But then
you don't get to feel pride in me.
I love seeing how Kaladin's trying to fight him as he's getting closer to understanding all these surges he suddenly can do because of eating Yelignar. And why can Yelignar do that? I don't know, but
it's scary.
That's Yelignar's ability.
Yeah, but look, kids, I just want to point out, never do crystal meth. Look at how it messed up his body. Not even once.
Yeah, he was never the same afterwards.
No. Well, the part at the end where he's drooling because his jaw's detached and
he has a gem heart and
and his chest cavities caved in and
he's just spooky.
Oh gosh, horrifying.
I just like that Kaladin, in the end, Kaladin's like, I couldn't have used up all the Stormlight, could I? And it's like, well, let's see, you're fighting 4 fused plus whatever it is Amram is right now, who is dual-wielding shard blades, might I add.
And doing it well.
Well, and
one of them, the blade that should have been Kaladin's.
Well, I love that moment where Kaladin sees the 2 blades, one, that butchered all his friends, the other one that bought their
freedom.
Is these dual metaphors in his hands just representing his entire life coming to destroy him. And at the end, who saves him but Rock, who somehow pulled on a shard bow.
Well, Rock did. He does have. He's a full, or he doesn't have a spren yet, does he?
Well, it wouldn't matter because spren don't give you super strength.
No, it's because I think it's more because he's an Unkalaki. And so
I don't know.
What is it? I think the Bridgemen comment and say that Rock's the one who thinks to go looking for him first.
Well, and again, remember what was Syl's line is maybe it's time for someone to save you, Kaladin. And it was Rock.
Poor
remember,
Rock.
we already knew that Rock was an archer from book 1 because he was able to shoot the arrow in with the spheres, the bag that had the spheres.
He's like, you guys are terrible shots.
And Kaladin approaches him. That's when one of the first signs that Kaladin has that he wasn't always just a chef.
Yeah, because it means I think he asks about like what brother died or something like that that made you a chef instead.
Yep. And then after the battle's over, you can see that Rock is having just this horrible internal conflict.
That scene, this read through really hit me. Even though Rock, like, we don't interact with Rock at all. It's Kaladin and Teft who you're actually interacting with. Which Teft's whole, like, he had 2 very short scenes, but they're just powerful scenes. But where, because Teft's like, it's not gone. I still, have my hunger for the moss. And he's like, it doesn't change us. We're still who we are. We just deal with it. And you can tell Teft's like, I thought this was going to be done. He's like, well, what are we going to do about him? Gestures to Rock. And the line that just stuck with me was that final line of, and it's like, we lift the bridge together, Teft. It's just that I love that line.
That metaphor of the bridge. It just keeps going.
It just keeps coming back, and it's amazing.
Because
works. Again, it's this horrible thing that they went through that forged them as a team together. I mean, the bond of Bridge 4, like that's one that you don't
mess with.
That is not a common bond. That is just you can't break that one.
Which makes Moash's betrayal so much worse because he was part of it.
Moash.
We'll talk about Moash in a second, but first I want to finish because we've talked about 9 of the 10 Radiants on the field.
We have Venli left?
We have 1 left, and that one is Venli. Now, Venli is just a very... First off, there is one moment with Venli and Tamber that I absolutely love because Tamber just is some kind of adorable. Like she has this very...
Precocious?
Precocious is a very good word for it, yeah.
She just reminds me of Bit from not Blade Runner. Dang it, what is it? You go into the video game. I don't know. Video game movie.
There's a lot of those.
Jeff Bridges.
Tron,
thank you. God, reminds me from Bit from Tron. Where it has a very limited response range. But it somehow comes across as sassy.
It comes across as a very, very, very intelligent pet, but not quite. It's almost she's got a very pixie personality.
Hey, listen.
It's like, but like the moment when Venli realizes that somehow Tamber is now inside of her gem heart, and she's stifled the void sprint that's in there.
Yeah, that's right when a fused is like coming at her to come inspect because he thought he saw, or I don't know if it's a boy or a girl fused, but they thought they saw Tamber, and she's like, oh no, and then they grab the bag and there's nothing in the bag, and she's like, where'd she go? And then realizes
she's in her.
She's in me, and I still look with the void spren, but Tamber's in there instead.
But I just imagine, she's like saying, wait, you were able to like stifle it, and her doing this like just very proud,
like, I did it.
It's like, I'm tough, don't mess with me, but like in a very, very high pitched, non-threatening, very Larry like way, actually.
Yes, very much like Larry in my mind.
But But yeah, it's kind of adorable, but also just really cool. And we see Vinley is not Odium's, and Tamber is not letting Odium take her.
Yep.
Which is really interesting when you think about it, because Tamber is just a little spren. Mm-hmm. And she hasn't been... I mean, she's a little bit more advanced because she was starting some sort of bonding process with Eshonai, it looks like. But at the same time, she's just sort of... she's just the little spren that could.
Yeah.
She's like, against the odds, she's able to just... Out of sheer force of will, which... What kind of order do we suspect Vinley is going to be? A will shaper. Now there is one thing that other people have pointed out, which I think is interesting. Doc FG asks if we know what kind of spren. I believe she's a light spren. And one of the which is a light spren.
Okay.
But beyond that, there's been some speculation that she is actually the missing daughter of Captain Aiko, who was the captain of the ship that they were on in the cognitive realm. If you'll remember, Aiko talks about how he has a daughter who went off chasing stupid dreams.
Well, and we know his father is a Deadeye.
And we also find out that his father is a Deadeye. And Tamber mentions that her grandfather was killed by a Radiant breaking his oath.
Yeah. So it would all fit.
And so it all lines up. I mean, of course it could be a red herring, but I'm firmly of the opinion that that's the way things are going to pan out.
It feels way too intentional. If it's a red herring, it's like, well, what was the point of that red herring?
Mm-hmm.
But no, I love that she then goes to the Parshmen, who are like sitting there debating, like, do we have to really go to war? I'd like to just sort of go off and, like, I'll fight if they come for us, but
But I don't want to go looking for a fight.
It's like we don't know who we are, and then Venley shows up. Do you want to know who you are?
I can tell you.
Yep.
Which is
great.
Well,
and that's the thing is, again, she's in, what is it?
Envoy form.
Envoy form. And she's there to tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
Which she tells them the story of who they are. And it's just a really cool come around. And then, of course, now in the next book, we're going to get flashbacks from both her and Eshonai, which I love that's the way that Brandon went.
Yeah.
Because originally it was going to be Eshonai, and then he played with Venley, and I'm just like, I think having both of them will be a really, really interesting look, because the two of them really are two sides of a similar coin.
Yeah.
Because one started as the obedient, quiet one who ended up later on going off and doing her own thing, and then Eshonai was the one who always wanted to go out and explore and find new things. And then she ended up becoming one of the more responsible leaders. And you see sort of the intersection of the two of them and how big of an effect they had on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having the flashbacks split between the two of them, particularly since they share a spren, is absolutely the right call. So I'm glad that Brandon went that way.
Yeah. I think it was like the prologue. He's released that, and I've read it a couple times, and I'm enjoying that so far, but not everyone's read it, so I won't say anything other than that.
No, I'm looking forward to hopefully next December, if not then January after. But yeah, I am really, really looking forward to book 4.
Far too long. And then there was the whole thing with Dalinar and Hoyd, and geez, there's not enough time for these things.
Dalinar and Hoyd.
Was it just as two separate things, not connected?
Oh, well, we talked about Dalinar last week.
Yeah. Did we get into the stuff with him and the Thrill last time?
We did part of it, I thought.
Did we not wrap it up?
I know we got to you can't have my pain, and you said this is
that's
my
right.
immunity.
But we didn't get. No, that's right. Because then they finally get the King's drop to him. Mm-hmm. And we hadn't talked about that. So let's go
Lift
into
has
that.
to take it into him because Zeth gets close and he's like, I can't go there.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to say there that we haven't already covered with the other conversations.
Well, there was a little bit just about suddenly he understood the Thrill. Because the Thrill, he realizes it's not malicious, because when he sort of rejected it, it almost was hurt like emotionally, like it had its feelings hurt. It's just like
it's like, you don't want me, but I
like,
love you.
We've been friends for so long. We've been so close. How can you reject me now? And it's just like almost a confusion, because some of the unmade are more sentient than others, and the Thrill is one of the lesser, like almost more of just a force than anything else. And so,
battle focus.
What's that?
Intense battle focus.
I have no idea what.
Just that's what it does. It just gives people intense battle focus, and the fact that it doesn't even
and passion.
Yeah, but the fact that it doesn't even care which side of the battle it is. Like that's
it's a full on bloodlust.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's very interesting. I just love that, like, as he understands it, and he's just like, and like thanking it, and actually like it's very sincere, where he's starting to realize he did need this at one point, and it's like, but
to
now
do all of the
it's
stuff
time to rest, and and he does it with the solemnity of like someone putting down their dog.
Well, except that again, he's not killing it.
No, but essentially
he's
kind of
binding it.
It kind of reminds me of like almost putting away, like when you grow up and you go back to your parents' house or wherever, and you go through all your storage stuff, and you find all the stuff from your childhood, and you have to put it all away, and like reminisce about it, but you have to be a grown up now or whatever type thing. Like, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
The thing that's interesting is that later on, Navani sees the orb and the dark light that's in it, and she compares it to the stone that the sphere or orb or whatever that Gavilar had.
So it makes you wonder which one he had in there.
And I think right now the prevailing theory is if it did have an unmade in it, it would have likely been Ba'ado Mishram, which was the general which gave them access to void light. It's one of those. It's like, this is kind of the scary one that they probably would have wanted to seal away first.
Well, and it's the one that they talk about sealing away in the little crystal memory things they find in those drawers. And so the theory that, I subscribe to is they somehow found whatever they contained her in. It was a her, right?
I think Ba'ado Mishram is female, yes.
Yeah, but anyway, the whole point is, why are you messing with this stuff, Gavilar?
Yeah, the Sons of Honor, they are really messing with stuff that they shouldn't be, I think.
What are you talking about? Everything went fine for the Sons of Honor.
Dude. Remember, Moash was with the Sons of Honor. Hey, segue! All right, so Moash, he has a task appointed to him. Let's talk about that. What's her name? What's the name of the Leshwi. She comes to him, and she says, "So you killed a king. Would you like to do the same to a god?" And now here's the thing: a lot of people have, like, I've seen people, particularly on Reddit, popping up lately saying stuff like Moash did nothing wrong. And, because there's a huge contingent of people who absolutely despise Moash.
It's not like there's an entire subreddit dedicated to it.
I'm not going to say that. This is a family podcast, Jordan. We can't say the name of that.
Everyone knows what we're talking about. It's okay.
But the thing is, everybody's just like, he killed a king. He got revenge. He did all this stuff. He didn't do anything wrong. I was just like, that's not all he did. It doesn't end with Elokar.
Nope.
He fully embraced the fused at this point.
Yeah, he becomes Vyre.
And he becomes Vyre. And he doesn't just kill a bad king. He murders permanently one of the heralds. I'd say that's a big deal, and that's worthy of the hate that he's gathered on him. It's not just killing Elokar. That's bad enough.
Well, and it was the way he killed Elokar just felt extra slimy too.
But at the same time, it's one of those things. Elokar did wrong him. It's like, at the very minimum, you can be like, there is a form of justice that happened here. There is an argument to be made that someone could say Elokar deserved no forgiveness for what he did, and this is justice. Now,
so
I don't agree, but
right. So I understand the argument, at least, that they're making, but it seems like that's always the one that they defend, and I'm just like, did you forget Jezrien? I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
And turning his back on Bridge 4 and everything else, too.
And that's the thing, is he, like, at that point, like, the whole, would you do the same to a god? He didn't have to say yes there. Like, he could have, like, at that point, he said yes, and he basically almost, like, not just willingly, but he kind of embraced his role at that point.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's so passionless. Mm-hmm. It's so, I'm just doing it to do it because they're telling me to, and I'm willing to just be a tool. Like, he's no longer a person, really.
Essentially, what he's done is he's become Book 1 Szeth.
Yep. Gave him his pain.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't he hear the voice in his head?
Well, that's the other thing, is I hadn't really thought about the comparisons with Szeth, but he's got the honor blade that Szeth had.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right.
And so he really kind of has stepped into Szeth's role. That's an interesting thought. There's more to it than that, but that's just something.
It feels like Odium shaping him now to be the.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the new champion.
Ugh.
Yep, I absolutely think that he's going to be the new champion.
But it is. I understand why there's an entire subreddit dedicated to it. It's just so despicable.
Oh, absolutely. There's just and then of course we have every epilogue to so far has focused around my very, 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 very favorite Wit/Hoid
and his performance art.
Oh yeah, so this is one of the times I think where we see we see into Hoid's personality more, because he's not putting on a show, or he's not putting on the same kind of show.
Yeah.
He's not trying to disguise who he is, because he's working with this little girl who has lost her parents.
I get teary-eyed every time I read that scene. I just oh man, I think it's even worse. Like, after I had kids, like, I cry at like everything. It's terrible.
Well, and the parallel that you see, because he goes to the little girl and he sets up the little straw doll.
Well, before he gets to the little girl, he passes a family that they have like a carriage or a crib or something like that they lost their kid, and then he goes to the little girl.
Right. But he sees her, and he awakens. First off, we see him awaken. Mm-hmm. He makes this little straw doll, and he tells it to take care of her, essentially take care of the little girl. And
we don't hear his actual command to the
I thought he just had it walk.
Right, that's right.
He tells the girl,
so like it attracted his attention.
Right. And just says, will you take care of her? Will you watch her? Will you keep her into the light?
And he tells the parents that.
Yeah, well, then he tells
the little girl first.
Oh, yeah.
About the doll.
To take care of the doll, yeah.
Yes. And then he ends up bringing the little girl, essentially leading the little girl away from the mother who has been dead for a while, that she refuses to leave, and takes her to a family that needs her and that she needs.
Yeah.
And then again, he repeats the words, will you take care of her? Will you keep her in the light? Mm-hmm. And it's just, I love the parallelism that's in that moment.
Well, and I love the husband at that point. It's like, can't you stay? And Hoyt's like, no one has ever asked me that before, and I don't think I'm comfortable with it.
It's just such a cool scene. And then he continues exploring, heads up to the palace, where there's a blood
sport. Before we get to the house, one of my favorite line of this whole thing is, and he's like, he would have tried to expose like his missing tooth, but that would be impossible. Like, just this perfect little wordplay. Because he had lost the tooth because he got the guy to punch him, and he's like, I would try and. But I just love that he's like, but it's impossible to showcase something that isn't there. And it's the most Hoyd line to say.
All the wordplay.
It's just one of those things where Brandon's always been a good writer from the stuff we read, but little lines like this are things that Brandon wasn't quite nailing earlier in his writing, and just add a lot to the personality of the character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot cleaner. But then he heads up to the palace to where there is a blood splotch on the ground.
And it's the area they've been trying to break up the stone for a long time, and they're really focused, but not everybody else is realizing that they're focusing on this area.
Well, and even Moash was just, curious about it.
He's like, why do we keep breaking it up? But he doesn't really question it too much. But
again, the blood splotch on the ground, that's where Elokar was killed, and the Fused have ordered that they not clean that up as a mark, basically as a reminder, even kings, aren't immune to the justice of the Fused.
Yeah.
And nearby, Hoyd sees what he's been looking for, and I don't think until this point he realized why he was there. Because that's one of the things that Hoyd has the ability to do, is he knows where he's supposed to be, he doesn't always know why.
Yeah.
Doesn't he muse? He thinks this is the whole reason he's been in this town.
Mm-hmm. And he finds a cryptic that's been hiding. And, he whispers to it and he sort of coaxes it out. And I just love the line. He's like, I hear you like truths. Well, I've got some juicy ones. Life before death, little one.
Yeah, and he's
and
like,
everybody's mind just goes, options. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Because as much as we love Hoyd, we don't quite trust him.
And now he's got...
Well, and he's warned us not to trust him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Well, he actively said, I will watch this world burn if it's necessary.
Yeah.
If it furthers my goals.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got... Well, he's already got access to light weaving, but now he's got access to Rosharan light weaving, and he's got access to soul casting.
Mm-hmm.
And soul casting, to a degree, allows you to step partially into the cognitive realm,
which would help him get around easier.
I just want to point out how broken it is that he now has soul casting. He's an allomancer. Once he gets the right truths, he can soul cast his own metal for his own allomancy.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness, he can.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
And people have asked Brandon if that's possible, and he was like, well, probably not the alloys, but the pure metals, yes. So basically 8 of the 16.
And I mean, if it's an alloy, and if he knew what the alloy needs to be, I'm sure he knows how to smelt if he has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's been around long enough that he could make it happen. It just wouldn't be
but it's just not an
method,
instantaneous. Yeah, it's not just I need 10.
Whatever.
But it's just, you just start thinking of all the things he's combining, and you're just, what are you up to, Hoyd? What are you up to?
Man.
Yep.
So I realized that one of the scenes we didn't put on there is Shallan and Adolin's wedding, and the resolution to that.
Yeah. Well, that's because we didn't see the wedding. It happened off screen.
Well, but there's the lead up to the wedding and
things that don't exist.
No, the resolution of it actually does work.
Yes, and I loved the scene where they finally resolved the triangle. Mm-hmm. Where Adolin is like, I'm gonna let you have him,
And she's just
or
like,
let him have you, and she's like, excuse me.
You're going to do what now?
I'm in charge of myself, and I'm picking. She's like, I'm an artist. And he's like, but I see how you look at him. She's like, Adolin, I'm an artist. I can appreciate things, but it doesn't mean that I want that instead.
I love her observation as he's sitting there up on top of the roof. She's like, is that going to be a thing for him now?
He just
standing on top of things.
And it totally is. Like, it's fun to see how, like, other characters are perceived by each other, and it's like, wow, he's totally having a dramatic moment there. Yeah, he's standing dramatically on the roof. It's totally valid to do that.
He's Batmaning. He's standing on a high point, looking off into the distance and brooding.
Mm-hmm. He totally is.
And so, and then I also like that Adolin kind of has his, or not Adolin, Kaladin has his sort of moment of acceptance as well. He's like, I wasn't in love with her, but she reminded me of someone important to me, who of course is I'm blanking on his name. Tien. I was thinking Lyran. I was like, no, that's his dad. But yeah, Tien. And
as he watches Adolin and Shallan make out in the dark in a random alleyway.
which isn't creepy at all.
It's romantic in the right setting.
We also didn't talk about one other character.
Yes.
Teft.
He's off screen for a lot of it.
Yeah.
He's off screen, but he has one of the best moments because
He
that's
has the
where
best
he
oath.
finally, yeah. Well, that's finally where he has to come to his realization. I will protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if, or I'll protect even those who I hate, even if the one that I hate is myself. And that is an oath right there. That's a truth right there as well. But it's just, and then suddenly when he comes through the gate and they look up and they see him, and it's just Teft. Night Radiant. And it's just, you've been aching for Teft for so long, and just seeing the pain that he's going through, and you gradually see why he's going through that pain, because he continues to find himself failing and even betraying those that he cares about, and he's finally able to forgive himself enough and accept it and step into
forward.
just step forward and progress beyond that. And
He's
just
so
self-destructive. Again his appearance though, Teft, Night Radiant, and you just see this ascendant character that you've just loved. And it's so good.
There's one other character we didn't talk about, but I kind of want to save it for a future episode. Taravangian. That whole scene can be an episode unto itself, I'm pretty sure.
I think we could definitely have just a full episode on Taravangian. I know that over on World Harper's Guide, they actually recently had an episode, but they're also a much shorter format. But I think there's enough for even a longer episode on him.
There
just
definitely
so
is.
much.
King Taravangian is the most interesting man on Roshar.
Oh, and then of course Nail, who he makes his decision. I love that because after the battle, Zeth and Nail have another conversation, and Zeth says something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, I disappointed you," and Nail's like, "Why did you disappoint me?" He's like, "Well, you've decided to side with the listeners, and I went against that." And he's just like, I'm fallible myself. I may be making the wrong decision, and I fully accept that.
And he said earlier, he's like, I'm not comfortable with people trying to swear oaths to me.
Right.
Saying like I'm their guy, shining thing. He's like, I don't trust myself like that.
Although he also says something about the fact that Ishik, not Ishik, what's his name?
I think isn't it Ishik?
No, Ishik is the guy in
is the Fisher
Pure
guy.
Lake.
Oh.
Ishar.
Oh gosh, Ishar. Yeah, that he, is the only one of them who's still sane. I'm just like, oh no, oh Nail, no, you've made a bad call.
What are you talking about? It's normal to make yourself a god king.
But it's just and so
I'd love it.
It's a very interesting and again very clinical conversation between Nail and Zeth.
But it's very true to their order, where you actually have a lot of freedom in that order. But
consistency is what's the key.
Yeah, and it's very interesting.
It's not a matter of this is the code you will stick to. It's have a code and stick to it.
Yeah,
and it's just really cool.
I love as Nail's flying off, the line, Nightblood confided to him that he never really liked him at all.
It's just Nightblood.
And I did like that Shallan gets her brothers back finally too.
We have to address what's in chat.
Yes, we do.
Oh, that is cute.
So Doc FG just said, my 1-year-old just walked up to my tablet, looked at the screen, and gave Bill a kiss. And my heart just melted a little bit. Thank you, Doc FG, for sharing that with us, because that made my night. Anyway.
Shallan gets her happy family reunion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yay.
That's right. Her brothers show up, and they're just like,
What's
who are these
going
people,
on?
Shallan? What's going on?
You're getting married to who? What? And the people that brought us here are kind of scary.
Oh, there is one other thing. we
Yes.
really, really need to talk about. The fact that Adolin decides he can't be king, so what happens?
Yasna!
We have King Yasna.
And I love that it's from the perspective of not Turi, his consort, or what's her
Polona?
name? Yes,
Polona?
Polona. It's from Polona's perspective.
And she's like, so she just sees Yasna come out with a crown instead.
And both of them are like, ooh, this'll be interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess they were late, so they weren't inside. Is that what it was? Or was that
I think
another
they were just
meeting?
sort of lounging.
Yes.
Because she's reading
yeah.
her, what basically are magazines, her gossip
Yeah.
magazines.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's pretending to not be interested, but apparently
But
he
he
gets
totally is.
crotchety if she stops reading them aloud.
Or not doesn't inform him what's going on, even if he complains about
And
it.
he's like, you could just, like, she's talking about this gossip of who she's, like, some other person's dating. He's like, well, you could just go ask her, oh, Turi. You can't just go ask someone.
No.
And he's like, this is why you're hopeless. He's like, I thought it was my taste in women.
They're bad.
I love the Sabariel and Polona. They just make me so happy.
Such a great scene. But I wonder where it's going to go because, like, talk about breaking Vorin traditions that they have.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. I saw a theory on Reddit that somebody mentioned that people are going to start thinking that, it's just so convenient that his niece is now king and that he, it's just another puppet for Dal. And I'm just like, you think Yasna Kholin is going to come across to anyone as a puppet?
I think anybody who doesn't know her, but as soon as they meet her, it's either going to go, no, she's her own person.
And she's
she is terrifying in all the best ways. I want so much more Yasna.
I don't know that she's going to find a spouse though, because that's going to have to be a heck of a guy if she goes that way or what. And I mean, so I almost wonder if it's going to end up going to Gavilar's son, Gavilar.
Well, she's a regent.
Yes, she's serving as regent.
Oh, she's regent? Okay.
Gavilar is becoming the king.
Well, because
Okay,
that was
that's
the
right.
whole
I couldn't
thing
remember.
that he was saying to Adolin that
that we need somebody to hold, because he's like a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, something like that. He's not old enough to
and that's
be king yet.
That's
that
the other
was-
scene
yeah.
when Kaladin
finds comes across
I know.
Scar
and he finds him.
Scar
Drahi, and the spy woman and
Scar and Drahi though.
and what's his name? That Shallan's guy. It's not Vatha.
Vatha.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
or Red. Is it Vatha or is it Red?
it's Vatha.
It was
both?
Vatha. Vatha's the one that
Vatha.
showed. Although Red came with them, didn't he?
I think both.
Was it Red too?
Yeah,
He didn't.
She brought 3.
Kaladin didn't list everybody that was in it. It was just her people. Just Shallan's people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So-
is
and
Red
it was-
because in Kolinar she has to reveal that she is blanking on her other personality, not
Veil.
Radiant
Veil.
Veil, and
Yeah,
that was the
and-
one Red had been hitting on,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh man."
Oh. And what is it? And you see that Vatha's starting to get the what is it called?
Squire.
Where he's starting to do Squire. Yeah, he's starting to get Squire traits too, because he draws in.
I
some
would love
breath
to know how
disguise
they
himself.
escaped Kolinar.
They had to do some serious sneaking.
Well, because they were right at the heart of the most intense part of the battlefield.
Yeah, serious sneaking. I'm not sure the details on that.
And they somehow
right.
got,
well,
the
what was
prince.
it? Wasn't Scar and Drahi? Wasn't it implied or said that they
Hadn't
had
they
their
sworn
spread?
their own?
They'd
Yeah.
sworn an oath or two.
I don't
Yeah.
think
I can't
they
remember.
had sworn their oaths yet because they didn't. Otherwise, they would have flown themselves.
Well, they may not have had enough.
They had a
Stormlight.
bunch of people though as well.
They had a lot of people to move, and they didn't. I don't know
I
if they
still
would have had
think they
enough
would have.
Stormlight.
I think they're still full squires
Looking it up right now.
Because I could have.
Brandon has made a big deal about people swearing they're not the first oath. Like any oath after that, he's shown the scene as much as he can, and he said like we're probably getting a Lopin one so that we can see his oath as well.
a Lopin flashback or
Short. He's considered like an
Possibly.
edge dancer style short for
okay.
both Rock and Lopin.
It's possible. I don't know.
I want it. I'm all in on a book entirely from Lopin's perspective.
We never saw Teft swear his first oath.
No, but that one wasn't as big as the next one. I read a thing where he was talking about he wants to showcase those oaths as much as he can.
That doesn't necessarily... I just don't think that means that it's going to happen for every single one.
No, I don't think it'll be for everyone. But Scar and Drahe are still definitely in Squirehood.
Okay.
Because that was a whole thing about how when they ended up on the other side, they're Kaladin's like they're quickly going to run out of their abilities. They're not going to be able to do that stuff. And so I'm wondering if maybe they snuck out, like using the last bit of Stormlight or that they have.
Oh, so it says here on the Coppermind, it says that they have ash on their foreheads to hide it, and they both look tired. And when Gavinar is shown to Kaladin, Drahe speaks a second ideal. So his is on screen.
Well,
for Drahe at least.
He speaks it, but do we know that it was actually a...
if it was an accepted oath.
Yeah.
It just says he speaks it. I don't. It's been long enough. I don't remember.
Yeah.
What his...
I don't know. Well,
either way,
see.
it'll get picked up in the next one. But it's a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
What I love, because it comes right after Lopin has his oath accepted, as he's having a goofy conversation with a Thaylen person.
Oh gosh, his Sprin. Lopin's Sprin cracks me up.
I love the line. His name was Rua, but of course Lopin called him Nako.
So they can't call him by his real name now.
Well, no, but the fact that he makes a rude gesture with both hands and then grows extra hands so he can do it more, and that's when Lopin's just like, don't wear it out, Nako.
And I just love it goes to Kaladin. Hey. He's like, I did it. You can start respecting me or something like that. And Kaladin's so wrapped up in what the news. He's like, "That's great, Lopin. You're in charge behind Teft. I gotta go." And Lopin, like his dramatic moment, he's been building up to. No one is paying attention to.
Speaking of somebody who has a flair for the dramatic, and poor Lopin just does not get to showcase it. I also love, just a flashing back to one of the earlier scenes when he ends up fusing himself to the ground, and he talks about how the ground is a jealous lover that won't let him go because he's like, I'll always come back to you.
I'll come back.
It's wonderful. It's just, guys, this book is intense, and we're not even done yet.
Nope.
Because yes, we finished the main plot, but guys, there are still a bunch of interludes and filling in bits to go over. So yes, everyone, we still have at least one episode to go on Oathbringer. But after that, then I think we'll actually be able to finish up White Sand, and then we start branching out into all sorts of stuff.
So suggest things, please.
Yes, so we are collecting emails from you, recommendations on topics that you want us to discuss, questions that you want us to answer, and beyond that, feedback about the show. Just let us know what you think. What you think, and of what you think of how we're doing on the show, and what's going on in the Cosmere. We just sort of want to hear y'all's thoughts, because we're just three people. We've got our own theories and ideas, and we clearly feel pretty good about them because we're willing to make a podcast and broadcast to everybody. But we want to hear what you think, and collaborate with, so we can forward some of these theories as well. So yeah, if you want to send those in, write to us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. Hopefully we'll get a chance to read your email on air and discuss your topic, because there's a lot of cool stuff. Guys, I am tired. Like, that was intense.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about
too.
it, this was really just a few chapters in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But
they
it was
were avalanche chapters. Avalanche chapters are like dog years.
It was an
So many
avalanche
more.
section.
Yeah.
Well, it's,
okay.
The actual battle ended like 2/3 of the way, and there was still just like, how could there be this much more book?
There's still more.
It's wonderful. I absolutely love it. Oh no, Doc FG says, imagine how many episodes of of War there will be.
Oh man.
I'm not even ready to start thinking about that
No,
yet.
I'm
We've
ready
got a while
to start
prepare
thinking
for
it, and I need the book yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. On a completely different note, though, let's talk about giveaways. First things first, I done messed up. So we announced a giveaway 2 weeks ago. It's a really cool giveaway. It's for a shirt, size large, that has the symbol of the Knights Radiant on it.
He's holding it up for the audio.
For the audio listeners, or for the video listeners, I've got.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, it's a really cool shirt, but the problem is I never actually posted any way for anyone to enter the giveaway.
So it's ours now.
No, that's not how. No, Jordan, stay good.
Sorry, I went mad with power for a moment.
Dang it! Third time this week. Anyway,
it's only Monday.
But you know what that means? That means there's still time to enter. So I will actually get that posted tonight. So on Wednesday when the episode launches, make sure to check because it will have been up for a couple days. I will post on our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter how to enter into the drawing for that shirt. Mm-hmm. Of course, all of our giveaways are open to everyone and they're free to enter. And yeah, the main reason we're able to do this is because of our patrons. Y'all are awesome. You're what makes it so that we can keep making the show. You're our motivation. You are our muse. No, Brandon's our muse. You are our audience. And
that just lacks the kick compared to Muse.
That's good too.
Is there a mythological audience? Does that exist?
Sure. A mythologians. Sure. Anyway,
thank you, mythologians.
Special thanks to Brandon Sanderson's online store at store.brandonsanderson.com for helping us to give away all these awesome goodies and sending these to us. Because honestly, I think they're pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very cool. Not the coolest thing in there, but very cool.
Very cool.
And there it is.
Now, of course, outside of the show, we each have our own personal projects. Amy, why don't you lead us off this time? Tell us where we can find you and what you've been up to.
Yeah, okay, Fan X done. What else is there?
Oh,
there's more.
There's more.
There's always more.
So on anyway, my Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay, and my Twitter is @coincidencecosp because my name is too long.
Just as a reminder, because my name is too long is not actually part of her name.
No, it's just my tagline that goes with it. It's Coincidence Cosp. The P. It's important. So I think I got con crud, whatever you want to call it, and so I've been sick. But I was going to do a photo shoot for Lore Olympus Hera, but that got canceled because it rained the day we were going to do it. So I still haven't quite finished that, and we're gonna do a spring photo shoot, but I'm probably gonna try and finish it and then show pictures of it. And I'm really tempted to finish my Nazgul if I can, but I don't know if it's gonna happen because Halloween in October. And otherwise, it's just and I got 2 giant rats from Walmart, and I'm gonna make the Death of Rats.
I didn't know that they sold those.
What's the Death of Rats?
So Neil, is it Neil Gaiman? Anyway, but the Grim Reaper, and he has he mentions that there's a rat who goes around.
Oh, that's not.
What is it called?
Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett. Sorry, They did a book together. They did Good Omens together, so I swapped names. But yes, so Terry Pratchett's book, and I can't ever remember his proper title, but the Grim Reaper for rats. Yeah.
Oh, Death.
So, yeah. Sorry, I probably can't speak very well because I have a cough drop.
Death of Rats, not the Death of Rats.
Right, no. It's the rat version of Death.
I'm always confusing. It's great. So that's what I've been up to, along with moving a cubic yard of rocks, and now my body hates me because I did that. So
for good reason, you did that.
Yeah, it was terrible, and then we only grabbed a wheelbarrow like halfway through, so that was even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah,
I can understand why it would be a little snippy with you. How about you, Jordan? Where can we find your stuff?
You can find me at twitch.tv/splicestream. I'm excited to announce that PAL, the Professional Amiibo League, Season 2 is about to start, and thanks to the generous donations of the competitive Amiibo community, our prize pool is up to $280 stinking dollars.
That's a lot of dollars.
It is, and they're not my dollars, but they are going to the prize pool there. And I am very excited. It's starting on, for those who are audio-only listeners, yesterday. But you can catch us Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern for what is, I'm going to proclaim, the best Amiibo tournament in the world.
Can we call the winner of this tournament the PAL Ace?
No.
Is Palace? No?
No.
More
like,
crickets?
Normally I'm the one who makes these jokes, and even I'm just ashamed of you right now.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll own it. I love it.
Well, you do have a shirt that says Funkle on it, so I think you're going for it.
Of course, when I'm not here, I've got a bunch of board game reviews over at the Innkeeper's Table at www.innkeeperstable.com. Actually, I have those reviews over at the Innkeeper's Table even while I am here. But I also post about games on social media, so go check those out. Those are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of those, the profile is at Innkeeper's Table. And also, I've been playing a whole lot of Ark, Survival Evolved lately, and it's very, very addictive. I actually set up a server, and it's actually available to our patrons, so that's another little perk that you could get by joining up. So you could play Ark Survival Evolved with me.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Anybody?
He was trying to show me how something worked, and apparently I was accidentally running a cover for some saber-toothed tigers that snuck up on him because he was trying to explain to me how things worked.
They murdered my griffin.
Aww.
And I blame you. Anyway, for those of you, of course, who can't become patrons just yet, consider heading over to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review or whatever review you think we deserve, honestly, but 5 stars really the correct answer.
It'd be nice.
And it will really help us out. It'll help other people to find us and just make us feel good about ourselves.
In all seriousness, if you can't give to Patreon but you want to support, that is the best way to support us.
It absolutely is. That and, of course, sharing the podcast with your friends. Just letting them know about it and saying, hey, this is good stuff. Now, in addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks, Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, you can find our videos on YouTube, or you can find the audio versions of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Overcast, Google Play, basically anywhere where you find podcasts. Just do a search for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us and contact us through Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. And again, you want to be paying attention to those because I'm going to post how to enter the next giveaway there. For our next episode, we should finally be wrapping up our discussion of Oathbringer for the time being. Don't worry, we're going to have other discussions of more specific topics in the future, dealing with Oathbringer and other stuff. We will be looking at the interludes and the filling in bits of the book. We're going to be recording our next episode on October 14th, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so join us here in chat on Twitch to be a part of it. In the meantime, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember, there's always another secret.